Hello and welcome to the vlog. Hi, I'm Jim from Whatnot Adventures, and I hope you're having a great day. We're going to have a really good day today. Blue skies, big white clouds, sun's out. It's going to be awesome. Well, today, folks, I'm in Blacksburg, South Carolina, at the Kings Mountain State Park. Now, this is a site of a Revolutionary War battlefield. Um, so we're going to take a look at that. I think it's a 1.5-mile loop around it and see what else there is. There's supposed to be a living history park here with buildings that we can see and much, much more. So why don't you come along with me and let's go see what we shall see. All right, we are coming up on the visitor center. I already spoke to one of the staff members, rangers. He said we're more than welcome to come in and video as well as take a look at their museum. So over here to the right are the restrooms. And let's go on in. Thank you. Check these out. This is really neat. Let's go around here. And here is Colonel William Campbell. And that's something. The Patriot victory at Kings Mountain. Well, there you go. Let's go on into the museum. Wow. Patriots or loyalists? The following quote situations are from the Revolutionary War, but do they apply to a patriot or a loyalist, or both? Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is read each quote situation and decide if it was a patriot or a loyalist or both. Place a blue magnet in the square for patriot and place a red magnet in the square for loyalist, or one of each for both. All right. Well, I'll let you guys do that when you come visit. How's that? Oh. The Ferguson breech loading rifle. Wow. Ferguson and his rifle. Huh. All right. Let's go. A little dark in here. I guess we're going through the woods. Oh my. So this talks about the British Army's southern campaign. It may be doubted by some whether the invasion of North Carolina may be a prudent measure, but I am convinced it is a necessary one, and that if we do not attack the province, we must give up both South Carolina and Georgia. Major General Charles Cornwallis. Until a more permanent army can be collected than is in the field at present, we must endeavor to keep up a partisan war and preserve the tide of settlement among the people as much as possible in our favor. Major General Nathaniel Greene. And this map shows the British Army advance into the Carolinas from May to October 1780. Wow. And there's Kings Mountain right there. October the 7th, 1780. Huh. Wow. Sometimes referred to as tomahawks, these tools served as weapons in hand-to-hand combat. And this is about the Overmountain campaign. When we encounter the enemy, don't wait for a word of command. Let each of you be your own officer and do the very best you can. If in the woods, shelter yourselves and give them Indian play. Advance from tree to tree, killing and disabling all you can. And that's from Colonel Isaac Shelby, a Patriot leader. All right. We got some more things here. That is a wooden canteen. Proved to be a valuable piece of equipment to the soldiers of the Revolutionary War. That's a Dutch holster pistol. It's an early 18th century German Dutch holster pistol. A few Patriot militias were fortunate enough to possess such a fine, ornate piece. Let me back up a little bit. That's something. And now this, the Patriot militia, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia.
This large illustration is titled Patriot Militia. It shows three men fighting from different stances protected by a tree. One of these men is braced against a gnarled tree trunk, aiming his rifle to the right. At the left are two illustrations of other men. In front, a man in a tan hunting frock fires his flintlock to the right. Behind him, to the left, a man in a long blue coat leans to his left, holding a rifle at the ready. Each man has a scrap of white paper or cloth in his hat, identifying them as members of the Patriot troops.
I'm an enlisted man, fighting with the American Patriots from the North Carolina Piedmont. It's a plateau region, nestled against the mountains to our west. It's a welcoming country, where we have established our homes, our farms, and our families. It represents freedom to us, and for that reason, we are gathering to defend it against any who would deprive us of that freedom. That's why I have enlisted to fight alongside my neighbors. We hope soon to be joined by patriots from other states and from over the mountain as we combine forces to stop Major Patrick Ferguson and the repressive government he stands for.
As commander of the militia here, I can vouch for the value of your service alongside our other brave fighters. Indeed, we have good reason to join together. The laws imposed on us by the British Crown are outright obnoxious in the way they suppress our rights as a free people. Since devastating our city of Charleston and marching their troops across the Carolinas, they have begun issuing intolerable proclamations. They pronounce that anyone who opposes the king in arms or hinders others from joining his forces will have his property confiscated and suffer other severe consequences.
Those threats are disturbing to my neighbors and me. This is a foreign government that is not here to protect us, but to suppress us. They call us rebels against the king's government, and yet we came here to live in peace as a free people. Many of us are Scots-Irish and came to these parts to carve our own lives away from the control of the crown. And now they hunt us down. They have put fear into the hearts of some of my neighbors to the point of giving up their arms. Arms that for many of us are our livelihood and our protection.
Their repressive rules have begun to divide our communities and even our families. I have seen, brother, rise up against brother as their loyalties divided toward one side or the other. These divisions have been as destructive to us as the British forces themselves. So when our troops are bolstered by our kinsmen, we will be ready.
At the center of the large illustration are two framed oval portraits of militia commanders, Major Joseph Winston and Major Joseph McDowell, both from North Carolina. In the upper left-hand corner is a small map depicting the area from which patriots came for the battle. In a case on your right as you enter the tree are artifacts from the battle, displays of a curve-handled flintlock pistol, a sword, a shoe buckle, and a neckstock buckle. Upright in the case is a long musket. A description says that it is the musket carried by Jacob Beeler, one of the brothers from Sullivan County, Tennessee, who participated in the battle. The sword is that of Lieutenant Colonel Hambright, who took over command of the South Fork, Lincoln County, North Carolina, troops after the death of Major William Chronicle. A wooden canteen is described as having proved to be a valuable piece of equipment to the soldiers of the Revolutionary War. By the pistol is a caption reading, "Early 18th century German Dutch holster pistol." Few patriot militia were fortunate enough to possess such a fine, ornate piece.
Well, that was pretty neat. I learned a lot right there. Okay, this is about the Battle of Kings Mountain. So these are the Patriots and their chain of command. And this is the British and their chain of command. Memorializing the battlefield. The key. The Daughters of the American Revolution took ownership of the battlefield from the Kings Mountain Centennial Association around 1898. Their help in preservation led to the eventual preservation of the battlefield as a national military park. Well, that's pretty neat. All right. Let's keep moving. All right, we're going back out into the visitor center and their gift shop. Give you a general idea of what's here. Pretty neat. All right, we are just outside of the visitor center, and they have some information here, more about the historic site here. Also, the ranger explained to me that this is the Kings Mountain Battlefield Historic Site, and that across the street is the King Mountain State Park. But we're going to concentrate on the battlefield today. All right. I hope you all have your hiking shoes on, because it's a 1.5 mile loop. And he did say we will see the battlefield. God save the king. All right, if you want to pause that and read that, go ahead. And this is where the Tories came from. Well, it sure is a pretty day. And it looks like we have a nice paved path here. Let's hope it goes all the way around like this. What do y'all think? I'm kind of excited to see this. Let's see what this sign up here says. All right. Collection or disturbing plants, wildlife, or other natural features is prohibited. And your dogs must be on a leash. No bicycles or motorcycles. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a 2 or 3 silhouetted soldiers out there. You see them? And then here, down here in front, they have this log with a long rifle on it. So this must be part of the battlefield right here. You know, it's been so many years that I'm sure the trees have grown in. But this is still pretty neat. And we're just getting started. All right, we're going to take the left-hand turn and be on our way here. All right. Looks like we still have some damage, perhaps from Hurricane Helena from last October. Fighting in a forest primeval. Kings Mountain would have enabled us to oppose a superior force with advantage had it not been covered with wood, which sheltered the Americans and enabled them to fight in their favorite manner. And that's from Alexander Chesney, South Carolina loyalist. The last timber was cut off Kings Mountain was less than a century ago. Forest has been reclaiming both the side slopes and the crest. All right. So the forest is growing. So there's a sign up here that says Colonial Road. I'm not sure if it's the path that we're on or if it's that dirt trail there. Huh. Well, let's take the path here. It looks like it wraps around down there. And let's see what we shall see. A little creek. All right, we have another plaque up here to read. Local boys and spies. The Patriots who formed battle lines at the foot of this steep hillside were local boys who knew Kings Mountain well. Some had used a large clearing atop the ridge as a deer hunter's camp. Local men from the South Fork settlements had helped the Whig colonels scout out where the King's men had taken their stand. As 25-year-old Major William Chronicle ordered his militia to face the hill, many a man knew he would have to face close relatives or neighbors among the Tories they would soon fight. Wow. Now let's go up there. It looks like there's a monument of sorts. All right. Ooh, this started going straight up the hill. Oh my. Okay. Let me see if I can get up a little bit closer. Here fell Major William Chronicle, October the 7th, 1780. Erected by the Major William Chronicle chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution, Gastonia, North Carolina, 1930. So this is where he fell. Wow. And back on the path to the right here is another monument. Sacred to the memory of Major William Chronicle, Captain John Maddox, William Robb, and John Boyd, who were killed at this place on the 7th of October, 1780, fighting in defense of America. Colonel Ferguson, an officer of His Britannic Majesty, was defeated and killed at this place on the 7th of October, 1780. Note, this inscription is a copy of that on the old monument erected by the Daughters of American Revolution, William McLean, in 1815. So this must be the original monument here. Wow. Wasn't that something? Alright, so we are still moving along here on the path. And every once in a while here, you do see a small little clearing. I guess it's just maintained by the Park Service. But this is amazing. And they do have places to sit and rest along the path here. And I must say this, I don't know if it's asphalt, but it is very comfortable to walk on. It's very easy on your knees. It's kind of springy. So it makes it for a pretty pleasant walk. Stream there, a creek. All right, let's keep moving. All right, We have another plaque up here on the left. Tighten the noose. Fire as quick as you can and stand your ground as long as you can. When you can do no better, get behind trees or retreat, but I beg of you not to run quite off. If we are repulsed, let us make a point of returning and renewing the fight. And that was Benjamin Cleveland, North Carolina Patriot leader. And here's to give you an idea of where we're at. That's the layout of the battlefield. We are down there just in front of Cleveland's North Carolina militia right now. And you can see the line between the Loyalists and the Patriots. Oh, right on top of the mountain there on the ridge. Right up there. Wow. All right, moving along here. And we have another plaque coming up here for us to take a look at. Right up here on the left. Shoot tree to tree. Ben Hollingsworth and myself took right up the side of the mountain and fought our way from tree to tree, up to the summit. I recollect I stood behind one tree and fired until the bark was nearly all knocked off, and my eyes pretty well filled with it. One fellow shaved me pretty close before his bullet took a piece out of my gun stock. Before I was aware of it, I found myself apparently between my own regiment and the enemy, as I judged by seeing the paper the Whigs wore in their hats and the pine twigs the Tories wore in theirs. That's Thomas Young, 16 years old, South Carolina Patriot. And here we are now. We're down there on the bottom between the South Carolina militia and the Tennessee militia. Into something. And up there's the summit. He went from tree to tree. And we are still on the path. Getting exercise. Ooh. Alright. Here's the next plaque. Let's see what it says. Be your own officer. When we encounter the enemy, don't wait for a word of command. Let each of you be your own officer and do the very best you can. If in the woods, shelter yourselves and give them Indian play. Advance from tree to tree and killing and disabling all you can. Isaac Shelby, Tennessee Patriot leader. Wow. This is amazing. Alrighty. We have another plaque here. Charging cold steel 3 times. Everyone knew Colonel Severe's rugged frontiersmen for their long rifle marksmanship and their touchy eagerness for a brawl. But no experienced military man of that day expected men armed only with hunting weapons to be able to face and defeat real soldiers trained to use the bayonet. It had never happened until Kings Mountain. 3 times long hunters from eastern Tennessee charged up this mountainside. Once, then twice, They were chased back down by Tories wielding 17-inch long bayonets. Somehow, Seville's patriots found the courage to stop running, turn around, and go back up against the fearsome cold steel one last time. Wow. Some brave men, that's for sure. All right, there's a split here in the path. And to the right, it says Hoover Monument. So let's go over here and take a look. Oh. I'm glad it's not crazy hot today. It's nice and just nice. It's probably low 70s right now. And all the trees do provide a good amount of shade. So it's pretty neat. All right. Looks like we have a plaque and a monument up here. Presidential recognition. The 150th anniversary of the battle. This is the place of inspiring memories. Here, less than 1,000 men, inspired by the urge of freedom, defeated a superior force. This small band of patriots turned back a dangerous invasion, well designed to separate and dismember the United Colonies. It was a small army and a little battle, but it was of mighty portent. History has done scant justice to its significance, which rightly should be placed it beside Lexington and Bunker Hill, Trenton and Yorktown, as one of the crucial engagements in our long struggle for independence. And that was Herbert Hoover, October the 7th, 1930. Imagine a throng of 70,000 people covering the hillside where today you only see thickening forest. A president of the United States had come for the first time to a Revolutionary War battlefield in the South. His audience that day was said to be the largest assembly ever seen on the East Coast up to that time. President Hoover's words were broadcast by radio coast to coast in the United States and to Great Britain. Within a year of his visit, Congress established Kings Mountain National Military Park, at last giving this battlefield the federal status and protection the daughters of the American Revolution had long sought. And there's some of those 70,000 people right there. And over here is the monument. On this site, President Hoover addressed an audience of 75,000 at the celebration of the sesquicentennial of the Battle of Kings Mountain, October 7th, 1930. Isn't that amazing? Oh, wow, that was pretty neat. All right, we were back on the main path here. That was something seeing the Hoover Monument there. Wow. All right, let's keep going. All right, we are pretty much up on top of the summit now, I believe, or real close. We got another plaque here. Drive the enemy. The ridge ahead was craggy and rough and covered with flame and smoke. Campbell's Virginia Regiment had drawn a tough and bloody assignment to lead the first strike against the Tories. They were the first to close with the enemy, the first to hear the thunder of drums, the first to face the terror of the bayonets coming downhill. Some patriots stood their ground and were run through. Most broke and ran. The Loyalists stopped their charge at the foot of this hill. William Campbell stood halfway between his foe and his own men, now on the run. As he saw his neighbors make tracks for the next ridge, he shouted, "Halt! Return, my brave fellows, and you will drive the enemy immediately." One by one, the Virginians slowed, turned about, and rallied to attack again. That's pretty neat. All right. And then right here, looks like a little monument. In honor of the 3 African American patriots and others who participated in the battle at Kings Mountain. I think it's Assays Bowman, John Brody, and Andrew Ferguson. Marker was placed here by the Frederick, I can't read that down there, chapter of the DAR erected September 2016. Well, that's great. That's really nice. Wow. Okay. We're still going uphill. And I don't know if you can see it yet, but up there between the trees to the right of ways is a big monument. And before we get to that, it looks like there's a plaque here on the left. So we'll take a look at that first. Americans in redcoats. These things are ominous. These are the damned yelling boys. And that was Abraham DePetzer, New York Loyalist officer. British war drums bellowed the alarm as 120 battle-hardened veterans in red took their places in line here. They were the first to face the Whig woodsmen moving up through the trees below. Mounting bayonets as they had in countless drills before, they charged the riflemen. British hopes to end the 6-year-long rebellion rested on Americans such as these. Leaders in London thought that a backbone of provincial soldiers could set the example, training Tory militia to march and fight properly. Together, the Americans in redcoats and the local loyalists might well establish crown control in the South. Wow. And here we are, up on top. Can you just imagine those men coming up from down below there? Wow. Okay. Let's go take a look at this magnificent looking monument here. Wow. Here, the tide of battle curbed in favor of the American colonists. It's kind of hard to read. Here on the 7th day of October, 1780, the British forces, commanded by Patrick Ferguson, were met and totally defeated by Campbell's, Shelby, William Cleveland, Sieber, and their heroic followers from Virginia and the Carolinas and Tennessee. Wow. Fell on this battleground defense of civil liberty General James William McWilliam Chronicle, Captain John Maddox, David Beadle, William Edmondson, First Lieutenant Reed Bowen, Thomas McCulloch, William Blackburn, Robert Edmondson, Second Lieutenants John Beatty, Andrew Emerson, Humberson Lyon, James Corey, James Lard, Nathaniel Gus, Nathaniel Dryden, James Phillips, Privates William Rabb, John Boyd, David Tuff, Henry Hennigar, William Watson, Arthur Patterson, and Preston Bethforth. Wow. In memory of the patriotic Americans who participated in the Battle of Kings Mountain, this monument is erected by their grateful descendants. Boy, isn't that true? This is an amazing place. Let me back up and get a better look at this monument. And by the way, here's the battlefield. Those men charged up this hill towards where I'm standing right now, because those trees weren't there. It was a field back then. Oh, I'm so glad that they won. Wow. I sure am glad I got here today. And I want to thank you guys for coming along with me. I hope you thought it was well worth the trip. It's nothing like going out and exploring. Learn a couple things, especially about the history of our country. All right, this one's in the shade. Might be a little hard for me to read, but we're going to try. To honor Colonel Asbury Coward, soldier, patriot, educator. President, Kings Mountain Centennial Association, 1880. Acknowledged inspirational force in the perpetuating the glory and importance of the battle at Kings Mountain. Wow, that's pretty neat. All right, we got a plaque up here on the right. Loyal Carolina men. As soon as Charleston fell, there was a proclamation for all to come forward. Peace and pardon should be granted. Vast numbers flocked in and submitted, some through fear, some through willingness, and others perhaps through a hope that all things would settle down and the war cease. And here's a map of Ferguson's Tory regiments in North and South Carolina. And that yellow star thing there is Kings Mountain. All right. We are moving on. We have a plaque up here on the right. And off in the distance, looks like there's another big monument. It's pretty neat. Caught in a crossfire, hard pressed on every side, Ferguson's men fell back to their camp, which lay in the saddle of the ridge you see just ahead. As some Tories tried to surrender, bullets continued to pour into their ranks from all directions. Too late, they saw they were pinned down in a deadly crossfire. Patriots, rounding up Tory prisoners, remembered how British Colonel Tarleton had ordered rebel prisoners taken at nearby Waxhaws to be killed in cold blood. Even as the heat of battle cooled atop Kings Mountain, few Tories were shown mercy. And there's the saddle of the ridge right up there, right down in there. Wow. Okay. Let's go take a look at this magnificent looking monument up here. That's a good sized obelisk. Wow. It's beautiful. That's amazing. Oh, I stopped recording to take a couple pictures. Beautiful monument. To commemorate the victory of Kings Mountain, October the 7th, 1780, erected by the government of the United States, to the establishment of which the heroism and patriotism of those who participated in this battle so largely contributed. That's awesome. If you want to pause and take a look, There are those named of soldiers that were killed and wounded, as well as 24 unknown. On this field, the Patriot forces attacked and totally defeated an equal force of Tories and British regular troops. The British commander, Major Patrick Ferguson, was killed, and his entire force was captured after suffering heavy loss. This brilliant victory marked the turning point of the American Revolution. Nice. And here's some information on the American forces, where they were organized, the commanders, the reserves, and the British force commanders. Wow. All right, we were just past that magnificent monument, and here we have this monument down here. In honor of Lieutenant Colonel James Hawthorne, commander of Colonel William Ellis Regiment, York County troops, in the Battle of Kings Mountain, 7 October 1780. Colonel Hill, having been disabled by wounds received in a former engagement, erected by Kings Mountain Chapter, Daughter of the American Revolution, York, South Carolina, 1949. Well, that's pretty nice. Okay. All right, looks like it's all downhill. Let's keep moving, people. All right, I appreciate you all still being with me. I really, really do. Okay. Looks like we have a plaque here on the right. Major Ferguson Falls. The chaos of battle roared along this ridgetop, piercing the din of gunfire and wounded men's groans. Ferguson's silver whistle shrilled, rallying his Tories. 2 horses were shot out from under him. Ferguson seemed to be everywhere at once. While he was charging and slashing at the advancing Whigs, 8 or 9 rifle balls struck the major at the same time. His unusual checkered duster had made him an easy target. Ferguson fell from the saddle, his boot caught in the stirrup. Fierce fighting continued as Captain Abraham de Peyster assumed command, but not for long. Minutes later, the Kingsmen were laying down their arms as white flags fluttered here and there amid the swirling gun smoke. And there's a picture of Patrick Ferguson, age 36. And there's another look at the ridge. We're down there. We're on the ridge. And here we have another little monument. It looks like. Here, Colonel Ferguson fell, 1780. So here's where he died. Wow. All right, let's keep moving. We have something here on the left. To the memory of Colonel Patrick Ferguson, 74th Regiment Highland Light Infantry, born in Aberdeenshire, Scotland in 1744, killed October the 7th, 1780, in action at Kings Mountain, while in command of the British troops, a soldier of military distinction and honor. This memorial is from the citizens of the United States of America in token of their appreciation of the bonds of friendship and peace between them and the citizens of the British Empire. And it was erected on October 7th, 1930. Well, that's pretty neat. All right. American victors. Imagine hundreds of men dressed more or less alike, hearts still pounding from the fever of battle, milling around this hillside as the sun sets. Whigs and Tories both slept on wet, cold ground amid the groans of wounded and dying men. The rebel colonels decided to leave here the next morning, for they know that Cornwallis is not that far away. Messengers ride out to carry word of victory to George Washington. 3 weeks later, the good news finally reached Philadelphia. By then, all these patriot regiments, like evening mists, have completely disappeared into the endless southern forest. Yet for these men and for the patriot cause, after Kings Mountain, nothing would ever be the same. That's amazing. How wonderful is that? All right. We have another plaque over here on the left. Americans vanquished. In these woods, dazed Tories hurriedly buried their fallen comrades, usually only logs and rocks. Dr. Uzell Johnson of the New Jersey Provincials spent the night with several hundred men with their wounds, tending friend and foe alike. At dawn, a long line of prisoners stumbled away under guard. In a few weeks, some would be paroled. Many would escape and return to the king's ranks. A few, judged notorious plunderers, would be hanged, and none would see themselves or the king's cause as they had before King's Mountain, nor would their leaders in London. Wow. Wow. What do y'all think? Glad for their victory. Oh. Okay. It looks like we are coming up on the backside of the visitors center, so that means we have just about completed the 1.5 mile loop around the battlefield here at Kings Mountain. We got to see some amazing plaques, learn some wonderful facts about the battle, and got some exercise in. Oh my. Yes, sir. It's a beautiful day. All right, just a couple more plaques here behind the visitor center. The Carolina backwoodsmen. This distinguished race of men are more savage than the Indians and possess every one of their vices, but not one of their virtues. I have known these fellows to travel 200 miles through the woods, never keeping any road or path, guided by the sun by day and the stars by night, to kill a particular person of the opposite party. Wow. Liberty. Gunshots and shouts of hundreds of men battered the slope you just see ahead as one of the fiercest battles of the American Revolution broke out. Every man here that day knew that the Carolina backcountry had burned and bled since May, when the British landed on the coast. Unrelenting civil war had scourged the South with partisan plundering, bushwhacking, and brutal massacres, neighbor against rankest neighbors, and fathers and sons. For the first time since Lexington and Concord, people living in the nearby Piedmont and Overmountain settlements had to make a hard choice. The men who charged through these woods were determined to defend their homes. They had taken up arms against the king and his officers, and now they would spill blood for a new country. Isn't that nice? Just amazing. Wow. And the visitor center. Wow. That was a pretty neat visit here at Kings Mountain, the battleground, the historic site. Now, I have not gone into the state park section. My understanding is it's right across the road. When you pull in here, they have like 20 plus miles of horse trails, about the same for hiking trails, 120, I believe, campsites, picnic shelters, and things like that. Now, the link to Kings Mountain Battlefield Historic Site and State Park, I will put in the video description below. Thank you so much for coming and being with me today and checking this wonderful battleground out that helped turn the tide here in our Revolutionary War. Okay, folks, you know what time it is. It's your turn to go out and explore this, that, and the other. You know the whatnots in your life. And until next time, take care, be safe, bye.